Okay, here we are again. Welcome to the Bioactive Nexus podcast. I'm your co-host, Dr. Bill, and I have with me,
Professor Gene. And it is our
yes,
second inaugural attempt at our first podcast. We had a little
that's
problem
right.
on Wednesday, but we are back and it's going to be a great day.
Yep,
So,
that's right.
you know, I just wanted to jump in and just give a quick background for myself, and then, Bill, you do yours. Just, hey,
Yep,
I've been in the industry for 45 years. I am the Chief Scientific Officer of Nutraland USA, raw material company, and I have a background in teaching at the university level about nutraceuticals. I've written books, articles, done podcasts, and have a lot of fun doing the research on all of this. Bill.
sure. Um, so I go by, it's William Clark, if you know me on LinkedIn or whatever, but I go by Dr. Bill. I've been in the industry 27 years now, I guess. Not quite as long
A
as
newbie.
Gene. Yes, I'm a newbie. Yeah, right. But no. Anyway, but I'm a PhD natural products chemist by training, so organic chemistry. So I started in this industry in '97 when actually it was the time that Big Pharma got into botanicals. That was 1998, and I was director of R&D for a startup company that did the Centrum herbals. So, I started big right from the beginning of my career. So, and done all kinds of things. Look, you can go look at our profiles if you don't know us. Connect with us on LinkedIn, and you can read the background on that. But I love this industry. I love doing that, and but it's a lot of fun, man. So now I would say folks probably want to know how we got this thing started, right? So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
roll into that. There
Oh,
we
God, I
go.
love that sound effect.
I know, I love
So,
it. Yeah,
so
I'm playing with our new broadcast software here, so I just trying all these things out. So anyway, yeah,
so
let's talk, yeah, start us off, Gene, on that.
yeah. So here we are. We have so much in common, and it would seem like we've known each other for years, but we really haven't. In fact, we just met at Supply Side West back in October, and we immediately just clicked because we did have so much in common. We had the science of nutraceuticals in common, a lot of what we did in our background in common, and then surprise, surprise, we discovered that we're both karaoke aficionados and enjoy
Yeah,
that activity, going out with our wives and doing that. So obviously we clicked, and we've been talking about what kind of projects can we do together. We wanted to do something together, and then one day while I was at the veterinarian's office with my cat, Dr. Bill
I
calls and he goes,
remember.
I got it. We're gonna do a podcast together." I said, "This is fantastic." So here we are today, and we wanted to make this live, and we wanted to make this interactive. So I think we'll have some interesting stuff to talk to you about,
Hmm.
and hopefully we'll learn from each other, and hopefully share some of those high level learnings with you. And now I
Yep.
think we're on to our first topic. I think it's time for one of those.
Well, I
Boom.
before we jump into that, I just wanted to say, Gene's right. We didn't know each other in the industry. I mean, I knew of Gene. I had actually read some of your articles and stuff like that before, and actually, when we were looking at due diligence on the Cunol brand, I know you were working with them, consulting or whatever, when we were doing
Sure.
that acquisition. That's how I saw Gene, and I actually knew where the CEO for where Gene works today with Nutriland, and I was already working on a project with him, and I said, "Oh, you got Gene Bruno coming over there, okay?" So Sandine kind of brought us together in that. But
Yes.
anyway, I remembered it well. We were sitting in the having a drink and breaking the show, and just said, okay, we're kindred spirits. We found out. So
We are.
one of these days we're going to be doing some karaoke for you guys. I don't know where and when, and we'll come together. We'll see.
I'm all in. You know.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, so let's get to our first hot topic here, and I've got a couple topics to lay out with you guys today that are kind of at the forefront for us in thinking. So we'll start with the first one there.
All right. So AI, artificial intelligence. My goodness. That is a hot topic today. You're hearing about it all over the place. Yeah. And it seems funny to hear about it in the dietary supplement industry, but it's not. It's actually something that I got introduced to about a year ago when a raw material supplier contacted me to do the dog and pony show, as they often do, and explained how AI was playing a role in the development of new materials. And I thought it was fascinating. What was explained to me is they would take something that they wanted to do, like let's just pretend it was collagen. They wanted to address increasing collagen production in the body by maybe activating certain collagen genes. And so they would put all the data in to the AI system, and it would come back with a bunch of compounds that could theoretically act at an epigenetic or nutrigenomic level, activating the gene to upregulate collagen production. Well, that's a cool idea. So then they look through all of those and then do the next thing and say, okay, of these, which of these could we actually find in a natural plant or food? And so the AI would do its thing and come back and give a list of those. Then they'd go through those to see which of those are actually commercially viable to obtain this from. And at the end, they maybe get a dozen or so. So then they start doing a little in vitro stuff, some cell line stuff, and say, look, this is actually working. Now let's do a human study and see. And then from that, they're able to come up with some really unique intellectual property. And I thought, that's a cool way to do it. But, a lot of people are kind of afraid of AI, right, Bill? They're like, oh, AI, it's going to take over the world. It's the Terminator, whatever. And look, AI is never going to replace humans, and certainly in this category, I certainly don't foresee that. But Bill, I know we've had this discussion. Would you give your thoughts on why you don't think AI is going to replace us, but rather is an adjunct to our process of product development?
It's true. I think, you and I have been around long enough to see the birth of the computer age. Okay, we're maybe dating ourselves a little bit here, but I remember the first computers and stuff like that, and the promise was that when you entered the computer age, it was going to make our lives simpler and do less. But I don't know how many hours have you spent working on a PowerPoint presentation on the computer, right? I don't know if it really saved time. So for me, the advent of artificial intelligence is pretty cool because it's just a tool, right? And it actually is delivering on the promise of what computers can actually do, I think, because it can save you a ton of time and mundane tasks that you normally would do using the computer and stuff like that. So for me, it's actually pretty cool. And that's going to continue to evolve. It's everywhere, as you said, and I'm always following the latest technology and stuff like that. I've been doing it for years. But how does that work? What does that mean for our industry in terms of product innovation? So,
Yeah.
It's just a tool. So you and I have formulated dozens of products taken to market, and we didn't have computers to do that. We were laboriously doing an Excel spreadsheet maybe to figure out formulas and calculations and do a supplement facts panel. But, what do you think, Gene, about, what does that mean from your perspective? And then I'll share my kind of perspective as well.
So if I'm kind of looking at them side by side, what the process is that AI could do and the process that we do and what could be helpful. So part of what I know that we do when we're doing the science of this is we also have to look beyond the science and say, okay, do some market research. Okay, what are competitive brands doing? What's out there in the marketplace? So one of the things that AI can be really helpful at is the market research. It can save us a little time and help us to do competitive analysis, look at trends, and that's one of the things that it can do. It's been said that it can help with QA, QC, and I could see that, but I don't see it replacing it because you have to look really closely and dot all your I's and cross all your T's to make sure that's done right. It can give you predictions on safety, but again, I wouldn't want to rely strictly on that. Um, there's things like, okay, AI can formulate a product. Mm, maybe. Um, because in formulation, there's so much involved. It's like you got to look at things like, okay, what is the indication? What is the nutraceutical you want to use? What is the research, the human research on that nutraceutical? Um, and what is the raw material source? And can you find a reliable one? So, and are those nutraceuticals going to play well together? So there's so much you have to look at that AI may or may not be able to do. And also, AI is not going to know the subtleties of like, okay, well, yes, this raw material may have that this raw material supplier may carry that raw material, but maybe they're not a particularly good source of it. And maybe you've had experience and maybe you know that they're not the right ones to go with. Because honestly, if you just look at a C of A or a product specification from a raw material supplier and you look at supplier A and supplier B and their specs look, kind of identical in terms of major things. There's a whole lot that can be lost in that translation. I mean, you can look at, say, saw palmetto. And you can say, oh, well, saw palmetto, that's great. That's wonderful. I just need to make sure it's standardized for, like 85, 95% fatty acids and I'm good to go. Yeah, but, some suppliers spike it with fatty acids that have nothing to do with the natural content. But it looks the same. It looks the same on a spec. So those are things that AI isn't necessarily going to pick up on. But in our experience and what we know is going to be different. So, customer engagement and support can be something that AI could certainly help with. But, I just think there's things that we're going to always do, especially when we sit down and we read through a study, and we look at the subtleties of that and we question certain things and we go back. I just don't know that AI
Yeah,
is
exactly.
there at that place yet to do it in the way that
No,
we
and
could.
I don't. Again, it's just a tool, right? So if
It's
you
a
think
tool.
about, yeah, I mean, there's several nuances there to product innovation, or formulation, and product development. Long before then you have the normal things in terms of commercialization of cost and can you fit it in a capsule, that kind of thing. So, AI is not
Exactly.
going to know that necessarily. It could, I suppose.
Yeah, but you're right. It's not going to necessarily know that. You know what else it's not going to know? It's not necessarily going to know like, oh, here, let's put this nutraceutical in a gummy. Oh yeah, but that has really terrible bitter afternotes and even a bitter masking agent is going to cover it. So
Yeah,
that's not suitable for that delivery form. It needs to be in a capsule delivery form or okay, it'll taste okay, but it has terrible dissolution, so you can't put it in a powder for a liquid. These are
right.
things that just experience and knowledge that AI doesn't have. Maybe one day it'll get there, but not at this time.
I think about when I've always been involved in sourcing raw materials, premium ingredients that have clinical research and stuff. And so, you know this. A lot of
Exactly.
suppliers present their research and it looks good on the surface, but you pull back the curtain, you start reading the studies, and you're looking at the primary outcomes, secondary outcomes, and in the p-value may be great in terms of statistical or whatever, but and again, you got to look at all the evidence in context too. You can't just look at one study at one off and then that's it and you're good to go. You have to look at the whole body of evidence, and of course, that's what our regulators want us to do when we make claims.
You
But I
you made an
think,
important point.
yeah,
Continue, please. But you made an important point I want to comment on in a moment.
okay. Well, just talking about that aspect there, if you look at you're reading through the clinical study, and this has happened before. I mean, I won't name names, but big ingredient companies looked at it, all looked good, did a great presentation for everybody in the team. We get in, we say, okay, send us the studies. We dig into it, and it said, okay, guys, this is pretty mediocre here. Are you got another study planned? Because it didn't support the claim strong enough in that opinion, in our opinion anyway. So anyway, you still have to do that. I think it can help you weed through. I mean, if you don't know anything about product formulation, I could see it as a tool to say, okay, what ingredients have indications for immune support, right? I I mean, you could use it for that, but I think we already know that. if you're
Pretty
experienced
much.
with that,
Yeah.
we pretty much know what that list is, or for sleep or whatever. But what was your point you were going to make there?
So what I wanted to make, you made a point, how when you're reviewing a study, you can go, okay, the p-value is such where it has statistical significance. That's
Right.
great. But statistical significance doesn't always translate to clinical significance. And an example is an ingredient, which I won't mention at the moment, but it was an ingredient that some years back was being sold quite a bit as something to help with satiety, to help with appetite. And it's like, oh, look at the statistical significance of this. This is great. But when you looked at it at the end of the day, it was like, oh, it kind of reduced caloric intake by like 6%. Okay, that's not a lot. I mean, if you look at something like a drug like semaglutide, and you get an injection of that at 1 milligram a week, is reducing caloric intake by like, 28%. So 6% isn't a big thing that's necessarily going to move the dial, and you're going to go, hey, in a few weeks, I've lost a few pounds. I'm looking at, it's not that significant. And so you have to look at stuff and really say, okay, did it meet some standard for clinical significance? So now you're saying, wow, this is a really good, and again, that's something that we're going to notice as we're going through that. And it may not have that calculation in there. It just says, oh, this amount. You go, okay, well, how many calories were they eating? They were eating, oh, I see. So now they're eating 120 calories less a day. Okay, whatever. So no big deal.
I think there's a call out that, or watch out, we need to call out for our industry, and I think it seems obvious to me, but we've always had historically bad actors in our industry that want to go pump up claims that don't have any support, or it's really weak science, and they're
no, say it ain't so.
Really, say it ain't so. Yeah, right. That happens, right? Because you and I are about the science, and so if you don't have science behind your ingredients for products, we're not interested. Okay, so and if you're not spending the money on do that, for me, it's like if a company is, I don't care if you're an ingredient company or you're a finished product company, if you're not spending the money on the science and doing the research, sure, you're not going to lead to market with science, but it's part of it. It's two sides of the same coin. You need the marketing piece, you need to understand your consumers, and you need to have a product that actually works for people. So what a novel concept. Let's actually formulate a product that actually will deliver the benefit, to the consumer,
And you know what's funny about that? Especially when you're talking about a finished good, where a company that makes that sells direct to consumer or via retail, whatever, and they come up with a formula. They don't even have to invest the money in the science of the raw material, because that's already been done. All they have to do is use those raw materials that already have the science and formulate something decent. But how many times have you seen, Bill, where whoever's formulating the product is using marketing science, not real science, and they're just creating something because they compared it to what's out on the market? Oh, let's see what so-and-so's doing. Well, let's put some of this in and put some of that in, and we'll sell it. And then they make all these claims. And it's like, you're doing the wrong amounts. Oh my God, 500 milligrams is the dose. You put in 400. If you just put in 100 more, you could have substantiate the claim, and it might even work. People just don't put the effort into that. They don't have the science people or whatever. It's so important. And then when you're a raw material supplier, you just got to put, unless you're just doing commodities, you got to put some effort into that.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I like with the company I work for, Nutrilene USA, is, we're doing studies. It's fun. It's cool. We're seeing some great stuff. So that's what's important. And people have to, like you say, they've got to do that.
Well, one of the things that I'm happy to see actually in our industry is that there is more and more research being done on ingredients and products. Which is more. Fantastic. Yeah, it's way more.
Let me tell you. Compared to when I started out in '79, I remember 1981, I think it was. There was an article that came out in the National Enquirer about how spirulina tablets were like the magic pill for weight loss. You just could take a couple of these a day and the fat melts away like magic. And at the time, I was actually managing a vitamin store in Long Beach, California. And people came in by swarms of people. We would sell cases a day of the stuff. People would come in, I want spirulina tablets. And nobody even said, is there any science behind it? It was an article from the National Enquirer, for goodness sakes, And so, not casting aspersions upon the scientific veracity of the National Enquirer, but still,
Yeah.
And so now it's very different, you know. And I got to give some credit to millennials. We may, you know, baby boomers. Speaking as one, oftentimes, you know, I'll joke around with my son who's a millennial about, you know, the millennials, but they're the ones that have started to say, I want to see some evidence, I want to see some proof, which I
Yeah,
really
no, I've seen
appreciate.
that too. Yeah, they want to know that it's actually working, and I think honestly, I think some of that was driven by just COVID in terms of post COVID. Some of
Yeah,
those things have stuck because now people are are really concerned or being more proactive about their health. Before, if you think about it, when we were 20 something, you think you're bulletproof, right? You're not going to, nothing's going to impact you. Those days of eating 72 wings and drinking a bunch of beer doesn't fly anymore. Can't do that sort of thing.
no,
But
no.
and I love what at the end of the day, just to wrap up on this topic, I've already seen on label, something referring to AI. So it won't be long. Within the year, I predict, the next 6 months to 12 months, we're going to see products hit the shelf. They're going to say AI designed or something like that.
AI formulated, AI generated,
AI
whatever, sure.
formulated or generated, whatever. Okay, but what does that really mean to the consumer? What is the consumer? I think the consumer is going to be a little bit skeptical about that because at the end of the day, they want something that works for them, right?
And I think that, and again, not to cast aspersions upon the marketing people, but I'm sure it's the marketing people that are going to say, we got to put this on the label because that's a hot term. And
Yeah,
and I think
yeah.
and I think consumers are going to go, oh, they didn't have scientists do this. It was just AI. You know.
Well, and look, you can do it. That's fine. But it's a tool. Again, let's just remember that it's a tool. Let's use it for what it is. Let's be responsible with that, and then let's. Uh, but we're going to call out. We're not going to do it in this show, but in future shows, we've talked about one thing is kind of like remember that show MythBusters. So we might do
I
some myth
loved
busting.
MythBusters. That
I
was
love
so
that
much
show.
fun.
Yeah, that was a fun show. But we're going to do that for our industry too. So, so
Awesome. We can
nobody,
bust some myths. I
we
love
can
it.
bust some myths about science here and who does what. So let's kind of move on to our next topic, which is another one, and that is
Love the sound. Okay. So
GLP-1, man. Oh my gosh, GLP-1.
GLP-1,
What is
otherwise known
that?
as glucagon-like peptide 1. You know,
Exactly.
boy, is that a big thing today.
It is.
Thanks to the Ozempics and semaglutides of the world, who introduced that term to the world, we now understand that GLP-1 agonists or compounds or drugs or whatever that activate that GLP-1 receptor can have a beneficial effect. And the celebrated, I mean, Ozempic was used as a a drug for diabetes, helping with different aspects of diabetes, enhancing insulin secretion, doing different things. But the sort of side effect, if you will, a good one was that it also was really helping with weight loss, which of course is incredibly important for type 2 diabetes. But other people who didn't have diabetes could get the same kind of result. And that's when they started doing semaglutide, which is just the sort of generic for Ozempic. But they would do it in a compounding pharmacy and mix something else with it, and then they're able to produce it. And weight loss clinics across the country will have a nurse practitioner or somebody on staff that can prescribe it, and then they'll provide it. And people started using it and finding great results. And one of the things that it does is it delays gastric emptying. What that means is you eat food, it stays in the stomach longer, so you feel full longer, have increased gastric volume, which really helps with satiety. I'm full, I don't have to eat as much. Um, and of course, you have the side benefit of its interaction with insulin and may help reduce triglycerides and some things like that, and reduce glucose. Which again, if you're a diabetic, that's a good thing. But a lot of people who are overweight have metabolic syndrome or they're pre-diabetes. So again, that's a positive thing. But it doesn't come without its side effects, right?
Of
Um,
course.
The
Yeah.
biggest one you're seeing is gastrointestinal ones, right? People will get nausea, which is why if you're getting an injection of semaglutide, they start out at 0.25 milligrams, and after a few weeks, you graduate to zero point 0.5, and then you go up and up slowly until you reach 1 milligram or 2 milligrams. And in that way, and the shot is once a week. But even then, people were still. I have a friend, she's a tiny little thing, and she was using this, and she was just at the 0.25, and she was nauseous all day. She had to get anti-nausea medicine from her doctor. Um, and yeah, and so it has those side effects. It can be constipating if you use it and you eat a lot of refined carbs and fatty foods. It can do the opposite, cause diarrhea. So not necessarily pleasant, but if you do it correctly and you're careful, you may get some results. But of course, the dietary supplement industry says, GLP-1 agonists. Maybe, just maybe, there's an opportunity here for us. Your thoughts on that, Bill?
Lots of thoughts on that one because, as you know, in our business, weight loss is its own animal, just like sports nutrition is its own animal. These guys have always been at the forefront of doing things. I remember the days of Ephedra and Metabolize. Remember that? A long time ago. Yeah.
Very well.
And actually, I liked Ephedra. It actually really worked really well.
It did work.
But it was abused. But
it
you know what
abused.
I tell?
It did.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that burns. That just really pisses me off because here we have something, the Ephedra Seneca, which has been used in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years. Somehow they managed to use it correctly, no problems.
Yeah.
Enter people here, particularly Americans, who go, oh, if one tablet is good, 10 must be better. And oh, by the way, I have cardiovascular disease, so you're not supposed to use these high levels or maybe any at all. And you do it wrong, and something bad happens. Well, obviously it's the fault of the product. It's not the idiot who took it, and so, So sorry, I don't mean to get my soapbox there, but yes, it worked very well.
Well, you know what? People have come to me for years and say, Dr. Bill, I've done previous ventures. I ran a CRO. I actually one of my companies, and I did clinical research studies on products in our industry for big brands too, weight loss ones as well. So. And there are some ingredients that can supplement and benefit that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, I tell them, it's like everybody always wants to look for the miracle pill. Okay, there's even Ozempic as a drug is not a miracle pill. Okay, there's side effects.
No.
So at the end of the day, you need to eat right. You need to exercise. You need a spiritual practice. It's body, mind, spirit. You need all of that together. And yes, supplements definitely help. And, I take a whole bunch of them myself. So that
me too.
So there's that. Yeah, there's that. So I think what I this is kind of another watch out for our industry because weight loss is an abuse category historically in our industry. So, I can see people doing the same thing coming out. And it's a short list of ingredients, by the way, that supposedly might have some benefit against GLP-1, increasing that and decreasing blood glucose. However, there's not a lot of research. Not a lot of research on that.
Okay, and here's the other part to that. One of the first ones that was getting a lot of attention was Berberine. Oh my God, Berberine, GLP-1 agonist. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And look, yes, there's good science on Berberine for things like, cholesterol, glucose, all of that. I personally take Berberine, and I'm using 1,500 milligrams of it, which is a clinically relevant dose. But here's the deal. Just because it's a GLP-1 agonist does
doing the same thing.
because it's a GLP-1 agonist does not mean that it's going to have the weight loss effects. It doesn't delay gastric emptying. It doesn't do any of that stuff. And people are like, "Oh, it's an Ozempic alternative. It's it's a semaglutide alternative. It's the weight loss miracle." No, it's not. It's great for what it is, but it's not going to help you lose weight. Show me the research. Show me the studies. They aren't there. Yeah. Okay? And the same thing is, I have friends that are in the business of looking for new materials that could be GLP-1 agonists. And they're going through the literature, they're finding this, and that, and they're doing, small studies to try to find stuff. And so far, they're not finding incredible results on those things. And so And I think one of the things our industry gets caught up in is whatever's kind of hot, everybody's looking for some version of that. And
Right.
here's the deal. I'm not opposed to that, but at the same time, look, if you
Well,
find something that works really well as a as an appetite suppressant, reducing caloric intake, um, does it matter if it's a GLP-1 agonist as long as it's safe and effective? Does it have to be a GLP-1 agonist? You know, just look at the bottom line. What is
well,
the benefit you're looking for?
but you can't even make that claim anyway in our business. Okay, it's a structure function claim. You can't say it's a GLP-1 agonist or anything like
Oh
that.
no,
Yeah,
you're
no.
not. You.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a whole other question. We should have one of our
We'll save that for
regulatory lawyer
another.
friends on there. I've had it argued to me by regulatory lawyers that DSHEA
Yeah.
allows for mechanism of action claims, and one could theoretically say, well, is a GLP-1 agonist a mechanism of action? It is, but there's nuance there, and that's too close to a drug claim. So, you know.
No, it's
But
too close to that. But you got to have the science to support your claims
besides,
always.
is a consumer going to buy it because it's like, oh wow, it's a GLP-1 agonist, or oh wow, it suppresses my appetite? Which one do you think they're going to
Yeah.
go after?
And by the way, Ozempic is a brand name, but semaglutide, is what we're talking about. But at
Yes.
the dose of 2.5 milligrams is another branded ingredient, same company produces, which is for weight loss. It is approved by the FDA for weight loss. So it's a much higher dosage, actually.
Yeah.
And they did a huge study, almost 2,000 people
Is that the second
suffering from all,
generation one where they're adding another ingredient to
it was Wegovy, or I think is the brand name or something like that. But anyways, 2.5 milligram dose. They did a huge study on weight loss, almost 2,000 people that were overweight or obese, but were not diabetic. Okay, so there's a difference there because, that whole old school BMI index thing is not very accurate.
No.
But anyway, the bottom line is it showed overall 14% on average loss in weight. However, it's just like any other weight loss clinical study that I've run in the past. As soon as you stop taking the product, or you think, okay, I lost the weight, and you go back to you don't change your lifestyle, the weight comes back on, man. Okay,
And that's
so
and that's one of the problems. So, you know, Bill, people are using. I'm not trying to discourage people from using semaglutide if they use it responsibly and they use it in the correct way, but people are using it in the wrong way. So, I personally have a friend who's had very good results. She has, over a
mhm.
period of, I think, 9 months or something, she's lost like 50 pounds. She looks fantastic.
Wow, wow,
We go out to karaoke with her, once or twice a week. And she, I see what she orders at the restaurant. She, like ordering nachos, ordering stuff that is not really
no,
conducive to a healthy diet. And so what
yeah,
she's doing is like eating the same old crap, but eating less of it, which you will lose weight if you eat less.
yeah,
But what a person should be doing is saying, okay, look, I know I'm supposed to eat a healthy diet, but it's hard to eat a healthy diet. But use the opportunity of, oh, this is reducing your appetite, so you're not as hungry. It's easier to stick to a healthy diet when you're not as hungry. Use the opportunity to switch and start making healthier choices. And once you do that, then when you finally do stop, you're already on a road to helping to maintain, because there's about a 95% recidivism rate in
yeah,
gaining back all the weight that you lost.
yeah. And
So that
it's
make the
just our
changes
it's
now
what
while you're having
it's
success.
our biochemistry. It's the way we're designing our genes. Okay, so it doesn't matter what it is. you know, you got to be a hunter gatherer. And actually, I've been doing intermittent fasting for years. That actually works
Yeah,
very well for me.
it
And
works.
I do a 16/8, and seriously, I've been doing that for years. I neglected to mention the reason this research in this area is very interesting, and actually, I'm actively inv- investigating possibly new ingredients and things like that could be revolutionize this whole aspect. But again, it's got to be part of a total program. But my father was diabetic, okay, and he this is a long time ago, but this is even before we know what we know today with that. So for me, it's always been a personal interest about living a healthy lifestyle, although that, because my brothers and we saw what our father went through and then ended up on dialysis. And, the kidney doctor, so, let's put the fear in some people here. The kidney specialist told my dad, he wasn't changing his lifestyle. He had some difficulties. He had some injuries and things like that, but he couldn't be as physically active. But once you hit dialysis,
Yep.
it's a point of no return, man. So
Yeah,
two and a half years,
it's a
two and
counting
a half years
game
later,
at that point.
it's a counting game of your body can't handle
So
that stress.
I have two uncles on my father's side, both passed away from complications of diabetes, and a cousin who he went on dialysis too, and he ended up passing away again from complications of diabetes. I got another cousin
Yeah.
who has diabetes, but she's being smarter about it. She's the sister of the cousin who passed away. And back in 2010, I wrote a book on complementary treatments for diabetes because of the prevalence of it in my family, which gratefully I've been able to avoid, and my father did too. He passed away; it wasn't related to diabetes, but yeah, I hear you, and it's a brutal situation, and it requires lifestyle change, like you said, having a combination of three major things: diet, exercise, spiritual practice, things that'll help to round you out as a person and make you a happier, healthier person. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And it doesn't come overnight. You have to make changes, and it takes time. It takes a long time to
Well,
form new habits. You
it
got to start
does,
somewhere.
yeah. And you got to start. And the most important thing is just start. Do that. So, if there's any message that we have for you guys is if you're not doing anything, go do it. Get into an active lifestyle program, whatever works for you. I don't tell people what specific exercise to do. I say, what do find something that you really love to do. For me, it's spinning and biking. Actually, you can see my bike right there
Do you,
behind me in the office. But
did you
uh,
ever read the book or see um, the public television special Fit or Fat by Dr.
fit or
Covert
fat.
Bailey, Exercise Physiology?
I didn't see that.
Years
I
ago,
know of
it
it,
was a
but I didn't see
popular
that. It's a
book.
long time ago.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a long
yeah,
time
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And so he was a great speaker, which is why he did this public television special that people watch so much. And he said on there, people ask me all the time, what's the best exercise to do to help me lose weight? He says, and my answer is very simple: the one that you'll do.
The one that you're doing,
So
exactly.
the one that you'll
Yeah.
do. So if you say,
Yeah.
I'm going to take up, uh, you know, uh, doing a treadmill, or I'm doing this or doing that or doing whatever, and you hate doing that, all right, don't make that your exercise. Choose something that you'll do. For
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
the thing that I liked doing was I like taking nature walks, and I could keep it at a
Hmm.
brisk pace and doing that. So that worked as an exercise for me in terms of aerobic exercise. But people got to find something that they like. I know a
Hmm.
lady who lost a tremendous amount of weight doing swimming. She loved to swim every day, and
Me
that's what you
too,
did.
actually. It's the
And
other
that's not
thing.
supposed to be as good an exercise for fat reduction because the water holds on to some of the heat and you don't expend it as well. But it worked for her. So the one that you'll do.
Yeah, it's the one you'll do, man. That's right. Okay, we've got about 5 more minutes, believe it or not, in our show for our first show.
So can
So
I can I go
yeah.
ahead?
Well,
I
I
just
was
want to
just going to
suggest.
do some. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead. I was going to do some housekeeping things and talk about the future, but you're probably going to say the same thing. So go ahead.
I just wanted to say to anybody who's listening, guys, go to our website, um, and give them the website name, Bill.
The
The your
bioactivenexus.com.
bioactivenexus.com. Go there. There's a place there where you can put in questions. Put in questions. Put in suggestions for the show. Put in topics you'd like us to address. We'd love to hear what you want to hear about, and we're happy to do that. Depending
Yeah,
upon who you are, we might even bring you in as a guest sometime. So please
right. Yeah,
share with us
actually,
your thoughts.
I was gonna say that. So go to the website. You can certainly follow us on the LinkedIn page. You can direct message us on LinkedIn. We have email addresses. It's Professor Gene at thebioactivenexus.com, and it's Dr. Bill at thebioactivenexus.com. Either one. And right now we're just streaming to LinkedIn because this is where our followers are in total in terms of the industry. So that's our business area. However, we do have a YouTube channel. I've set up a YouTube channel and a Facebook page, and eventually we'll be in some other social media platforms. So if you prefer to, and this broadcast software we're using, by the way, is actually pretty cool. We can simulcast to multiple social media platforms. So you don't have to be glued to your laptop computer necessarily in the future. So give us some time to kind of build those features in, but certainly reach out to us with your Q&A. There's two things. One, anybody who wants to come on the show as a guest, if it fits in with our topic, and we don't have any sponsors. We're doing this because this is fun for us, and we love talking about these things. And but yeah, if it fits with the topic, or maybe we build a show around it, that'd be fun to do. I mean, I just think of microbiome research is huge right now, and that's really growing up. I think we can do several. We can do several. Yeah, it's a great topic. We do several shows on that even. And then also, if you want to be an audience member in the studio, we can give you a link for that, and you can actually do live call-ins here with us on the studio and join us in the broadcast. It's a different level than a guest there. So anyway, lots of options for everybody and how they do that. Anything else, Gene, you want to add?
No, I think that's good. I just want to thank those of you who've joined us. Thank you, and thanks for your support, and keep joining us. And we're going to do our very best to make this a interesting and informative and hopefully entertaining experience for you.
Yes, and again, same for me. Thank you for tuning in on our first show. For those that did it, I know there's some people from around the world actually were tuning in here, and it's exciting for us. And we're going to have some fun with this, and we'll just grow, see how it goes from there. And again, you'll find Gene and I at the shows. We'll be you can see us there, and I can see us doing some on the spot things on at the trade show floor, things like that. It'll be fun in the future.
Which reminds me, I'm going to be on two different panels at Supply Side East. One is on supply chain threats and opportunities, and that's taking place on Wednesday, April 17th at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And then the second one is called FDA on Kratom, CBD, and mushroom supplements, where formulation and regulations collide. And I'll be on that panel as well, and that's also on April 17th at 2:30 p.m. So if you'd like to join us for that, we'd love to have you. And oh, by the way, speaking of joining us, if anybody happens to be in the Knoxville area and you want to send me an email or a text, happy to have you join me for karaoke on Wednesday and Friday nights.
Well, you'll have to travel far for me for that one, but I think you got a karaoke night tonight planned, right? It's Friday night.
We do.
We'll probably
it's Friday night, and we are going out.
Yeah. Yes. Always fun. And who knows? Maybe Gene and I can do a clip or two of Belt Out a Few Tunes. Hey, just what's your kind of go-to song when you get up there? I probably have 150 songs in my repertoire, but what about you?
Yeah. So I do too. I would say my go-to ones, depending on the genre, like if I'm doing a musical theater, for example, I might do Music of the Night from Phantom of the Opera, or If I Were a Rich Man from Fiddler on the Roof. Yeah. Or if I'm doing rock, I might do 2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad by Meatloaf, or I might do a Beatles song, Let It Be or something.
Cool.
If I'm doing, or more recently, I've been doing the Sound of Silence, the Disturbed version of it, which is very cool.
Oh, I love that song, man. That's
and then other, if I'm doing country, maybe some Johnny Cash, whatever. It just depends on what genre I'm doing that night.
Yeah.
How about
for me,
you,
I
Bill?
love.
What do you do?
I do every kind of genre, just about, it seems like. But my go-to when I started in this years ago was swing jazz. So I loved all Big Bad Voodoo Daddy and all those guys.
Nice.
There was research in the early '90s with swing jazz, and actually I produced my own karaoke song. So I've done over 100 songs of my own that I've produced because they just weren't available at the time, and still aren't today in some cases. So when I go to sing out somewhere with some of those songs, actually nobody's ever heard them before because they're not on karaoke anywhere. So that's always a lot of fun.
Do you give them a thumb drive and they can put it in and play it for you?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah. Well, you probably got the same thing. You bring your thumb drive.
Well, I have a friend who does that. He sits down and he takes songs that don't exist as karaoke and he creates them. So that's fun.
It's a lot of fun. So we have fun with that. So that's the other thing too. Find a hobby, something you really love to do. You really have fun and just have fun, enjoy life. Yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to take us out here, and we'll see you when we see you. We'll get this recording up. It'll be I don't know how long it takes on LinkedIn, but then it'll be up on our YouTube channel and on our website, and we'll send out a post notice about that when it happens there. So thanks again. It's great having you guys here. Love it, Gene. I'm looking forward to doing more of this, man.
Me too.